Hey everybody, welcome to my channel, and this isn't, actually, last we left off, Deku was in his little cage underneath the school, and he was being observed by the teachers. They thought that putting him in the hero course would be a good idea, so All Might, Aizawa, and Nezu would walk into the observatory room as All Might would walk in, putting his hands up showing that he's not going to do anything. As he walks over to Deku and asks him if he wants to go to school with him. Deku tilts his head, and then his mouth forms on his face and asks, "What's school?" And this shocks those three, as they thought they already knew what school was. So they would explain what a school is, and they would ask if he wants to join UA. Deku would nod his head yes, and would be escorted by Aizawa and Nezu to a special class by himself, where he would be taught for 2 years. And during those 2 years, he would just be training his abilities as well as being taught a bunch of other things that school would have. After those 2 years, Deku would be pretty smart. Not, well, near Nezu smart, but not there yet. And Deku would live in the cell underneath the school in that cage for those 2 years, until one day they would make the announcement that, well, they would tell him that they have a dorm system now for their classes. And since he's going to be in class 1A, he's going to be in the 1A dorm room. So he would move in there pretty early. And he got to choose his own room, which was pretty big and spacious, which had a few other rooms in it. And Deku had one room with the Numu in it, one room where he sleeps, and the other room is just a lounge room. And of course there's a bathroom, just in case. And a small kitchen in there as well. And in the room that has a Numu on it, there's a sign on there that says keep out, as there's 3 locks in place on it. A code lock, a barcode lock, as well as a normal key and lock padlock. Deku would always use a secret entrance in his room to just crawl into like a little space area and just get into that room, and would just munch on it whenever he could. The Numu would always regenerate, so he had an endless food supply. Now, as Deku was sitting there one day, and the entrance exam was going on, he hears a loud boom. And then it's just quiet. And this was Bakugo. And as Deku was going around, or just walking around his dorm room, over the next week, he hears new students entering the dorm. So he peeks his head out and looks, as these students are taken in the other dorm rooms nearby. As Deku pulls his head back into his dorm room, closing the door, as some students would kind of notice this, and they would, hang on, sorry about that. Anyways, as Deku was sitting there just in his room thinking that they didn't notice him, some students would walk over. Sorry, give me 1 minute. So as Deku was just sitting there, some students would I'm sorry guys. As some students would walk over to the door and they would read, "Keep out at all costs," on top of the door. And on the door there's, well, it looks to be like a cross of caution signs across the door. And there's a name tag next to it. And it reads Deku, and underneath it, it says DK4, or D3K4. They would question what it means, but they would just brush it off as they would knock on the door. Deku would slightly open the door and peek his eye out, as they would look at it, and they would just wave as Deku would shut the door pretty fast. They would just think that it was strange, and then would just knock again as Deku would just peek his eye out, and then one person had the bright idea to lift their hands up like, "We come in peace," as he would open the door. They asked what was different about this time, as one person goes, "I just raised my hands above my head, showing them I'm not going to do anything, and he just let me in." And he just opened the door. As they would just walk in and have their hands up, just so that they don't get attacked. As they would look around for the person that opened the door, as they would just look all around the room, up, down, left, and right. So they turned around to see Deku on top of the ceiling, just looking down at them. His claws are just digging into the ceiling, and his feet are just on there for the ride, as you could say. They would ask what he's doing, as Deku would just crawl down the wall, and then just sit there on the floor as his tail would pop out from underneath his shirt, and then just start waving around like a dog's tail, but not as fast, just a sway. They would ask what his quirk is. Deku would tilt his head, until one person notices that he doesn't have a mouth. They would look at this and they would say, "Sorry, we didn't," as a line would form across his mouth, as then it would expand and show these razor sharp teeth, and the skin just like deforming, as a rough, grovelly, deep voice comes out and says, "It's okay, it sometimes happens," as then the mouth would shut and just go back to normal. They would be a little disturbed by it, but would just brush it off, as they would ask what his name is, as he would bring the sign in from the outside that has Deku or DK or D3K4 on it, as he would reveal it to him. And he would point to D3K4. They would ask, "Is that like a code name?" As Deku would nod his head and point up to the word Deku. They would ask, "So you're like a experiment or something?" Deku would nod and point to the person that said that. And they would all be shocked to know that he was in a science experiment. And they would ask, "Do you know who your parents are?" Deku would tilt his head, and then he would show like a little motion for paper or like a pencil to write. They would get him a piece of paper and pencil, as Deku would write in shaky, childish-like handwriting, because it's been a while since he started writing. As Deku would write, "What are parents?" and just tilt his head while holding this up. And they would ask him some more questions, getting to know him. And Deku would be, well, he would just be getting used to the students that were in his dorm. And these students were Kirishima, Kaminari, Mina, Momo, Uraka, Ida, and Ojiro. Yeah, there you go. These are the only people that Deku would be used to, and he would consider friends. But they would ask about the locked room, as Deku would get into a fighting stance as he would cling onto the wall next to it and get his tail ready to sting, as they would just put their hands up and back away from it, as Deku would just get down from his offensive form and just get on the floor. And Deku would just shake his head, say no, as he would point to the door and he would put X up like with his arms in an X form. It was just pretty much saying no. They would nod in understanding as they would wave him goodbye as they went to go settle in their dorms. Deku thought that the day was already interesting. Wonder what the rest of the school day is going to be like. And I know this is an early video, but sorry guys, there's going to be one more video after this, and it's probably going to be the Nightmare Sands video, I'm not sure, or maybe something else. So sorry guys, I don't really feel like updating tonight. I did the stupidest thing ever and didn't get much sleep, so I just woke up about an hour ago. So I'm still waking up. I might not post the rest of the night, just trying to wake up and just relax. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.